Thanks, Gab.
Hi, everyone. If you're joining us, welcome to Securing Major Donors and Increasing Donor Relationships with AI. We're going to go ahead and get started shortly, but if you are joining us, make sure you go ahead and drop a hello in the chat box and let us know your organization name and where you're joining us from so we can see who we have on today.
We got a lot of coverage here.
All over the place. It's great to see. Okay, if you are just joining us, welcome to Securing Major Donors and Increasing Donor Relationships with AI. We have a great session today. I'm going to make sure we go ahead and get started right at 12 o'clock to give our presenters the full hour. So they have a lot of great information to share with you. Today's session is going to be recorded. So if you see anything here, no need to take notes. We have the deck that you're going to receive and a recorded copy of everything that we're going to be talking about today. So feel free to enjoy. Make sure you utilize that chat box and our Q&A box to ask questions, so we can, make sure we're answering any questions that you all might have. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to Securing Major Donors and Increasing Donor Relationships with AI. Today's agenda, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. We're then going to ask some questions from the audience. We're going to talk about, the definition of AI and how it's being used by nonprofits today. And then we're going to talk about utilizing AI in campaigns for major donors and strengthening donor relationships. And then we're going to talk about making sure you're utilizing the right technology to put these practices in place. And then we're going to get into some questions and answers. So on our panel today, we have Nathan Chappell. He is the Senior Vice President of DonorSearch AI and also the co-author of The Generosity Crisis, the case for radical connection to solve humanity's greatest challenges. Hi, Nathan. Thanks for being here today.
All right, I was on mute. Great to be here, Gabby. Thanks so much. Always enjoy spending time with you and David and Chris. So it's great to be here.
Definitely. And next we have David Blyer, who is the co-founder and CEO of Arreva. Hi, David.
Hey, Gabby. Thank you for putting this together. And Nathan, we appreciate you joining and sharing all of your wonderful AI experiences and business experiences. And Chris, thank you so much for joining and providing all of your experiences. And I hope the audience really finds this to be very informative today. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have Chris Fink, who is our Chief Operating Officer. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm good, Gabby. Thank you. It's great to be here. And huge thanks to Nathan for being here as well.
Awesome. And I'm Gabriella Slemy. I'll be your moderator today, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at Arreva. So to go ahead and get started, you are going to see a poll pop up on your screen, and it's a question about donor acquisition. So we want to know if you feel your donor acquisition is getting easier or harder year after year, or maybe it's remained consistent for you. The Giving USA report recently was released that shared a lot of interesting insights on this. So it's going to be interesting to get the temperature of the room and see how you all feel about this. So give a few more seconds. We have a lot of answers pouring in right now. Okay. Let's go ahead and present these results. Okay, the majority of you said it's getting harder. Some of you said it's remaining consistent, and there was a few of you who said it's getting easier, which is really interesting to see. And then the next question we would like to know, are you utilizing artificial intelligence to predict donor behavior? Maybe some of you aren't even sure if you're utilizing AI or know how to start utilizing AI. You're in the right session. If not, we're going to cover the entire gamut of where to go to find these platforms and then how to implement them in everyday practices for your organization. But we just wanted to gauge the room and see who actually is using AI to predict donor behavior. Okay, we'll share those results. So the majority of you seem to not be utilizing it, and a lot of you also aren't sure how to begin utilizing it. So that's really interesting to see. And then a few of you are actually working with AI. Okay. And then our next question is going to be, to what extent does your nonprofit currently utilize AI technology? So maybe you're using it all the time, extensively, every day. Maybe you've implemented it in some areas and are looking for new ways that you could, do that. Maybe you're interested in exploring AI, but you're not sure how to implement it. And maybe you haven't done anything yet. So it'll be interesting to see what everyone in the room is doing. Okay, so go ahead and present these results. So it seems to be pretty spread throughout, with no one using it extensively, but everyone using it in some way. And then there's 20% of you who aren't yet using it. It's interesting to see.
Fantastic.
Okay, and with that, I will turn this over to Nathan.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much, Gabby. And I love having those polls at the beginning, really to give us a glimpse at where the audience is and where they're at in their AI transformation journey. And I'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But we're going to start this with just a little bit of level setting here, and to essentially, knowing that we have some that are already using it pretty extensively, some that are not. But we'll do some level setting just to talk about kind of where you're at. And as Gabby said, if no matter where you're at in your journey, you're in the right place. We're going to cover a lot here in just a short amount of time. I think it's important when we talk about the term AI, we talk about it in a way that kind of means everything and nothing at the same time. Now, I've been working in artificial intelligence since 2017, when it was really, only pretty much for the nerds, and it was not very transparent, not very accessible, not very affordable. But on November 30th, 2022, ChatGPT was released in the wild, and it became the most adopted technology platform ever in the history of humans, faster than Instagram, faster than TikTok. 2 million people ended up using this tool within 2 months. So fast forward from that, November 30th, 2022 to today, it's been 18 months or whatever that is, 19, 20 months, not been 2 years yet. And we know that around 12% of nonprofits are using AI in a more active capacity. Now, pretty much everyone's using it in some passive capacity, because if you're using Grammarly or Canva or a lot of different tools, you're probably using it not even knowing you're using it. Like if you buy anything on Amazon, you're using it. So about 12% of nonprofits are using it in an active capacity of like, I'm seeking out an AI tool to help me with my organization. About 60% of nonprofits believe AI can be helpful. So there's still a pretty big delta between those that are using it and those that believe it can be helpful. So we're on this learning journey, and that's why we're here today. And education is the #1 barrier. Actually, a new survey came out yesterday. It showed that 53% of nonprofit workers said they were unsure how to use AI. And that was from a pretty in-depth study that I just got my hands on this morning. So again, powerful tool. It's going to change everything, but we're really not sure how to use it quite yet. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. When people get nervous about the term AI, it's often because, a lot of what the market will tell you, and I mean, the market, like the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Googles, will be like, this is going to change everything. And there's a little bit of fear that comes with that. They all also claim that they all invented AI. And the reality is, it again is this term that means everything and nothing. But at its core essence, AI essentially represents technology that once did things that humans only did. And that started out with this idea back in 1955 that AI could essentially beat a human at playing chess. And not surprising, they thought that it would take a year, and it took 30 years to program a computer to teach, to program a computer to beat a human at playing chess. And now we're talking about, AI basically augmenting and supporting people in their roles, not replacing them necessarily. So AI still stands for technology that helps you do things that were once inherently human, but we don't like to think about it, even in the term artificial feels kind of foreign. we really like to think about it as in this term of augmenting, that, a fundraiser that uses AI will not replace AI won't replace a fundraiser, but a fundraiser that uses AI will replace one that is not using it. So it's augmenting your ability. It also is this notion now that AI is a journey, not a destination. That we talk about AI transformation, it really talks about change. And as humans, we know how to change. We're pretty good at it. We would still be, plowing or, using shovels or whatever in fields, not tractors, if we didn't, know how to change. And we invent technologies and we adapt to those technologies. I mean, the internet, not surprising, has changed everything in our lives, and how we operate from the moment we get up in the morning to when we go to bed. The internet's changed how we work and how we operate socially and within our communities. AI will do the same thing, but it's also important to know that it's a dynamic technology. So the internet still operates the same way as it was intended to build, or it was intended, which is that it sends and receives data. It's a very simple technology. It sends and receives data. It has really no characteristic of, or representation of, that has a mind of its own. It just sends and receives data. AI is considered a dynamic technology, that it evolves, and it actually now AI trains AI. So the amount of change that we're used to as humans will increase, and we have to get better at being curious and not being afraid of it, and just being curious and like, well, what else can it do, and how can it help me with my role? And if you don't know how AI can help you with your job, all you have to do is ask it, and it will give you ideas on how it can help you. And so that's this idea of this AI transformation. It's not a destination. It's not like I do this webinar and then I'm done. You are now on this perpetual cycle of change. And I know if you don't like change, that's a scary thing, but it does mean as humans, like, we just need to be curious. I like to think about change more about curiosity and like, well, what's next? Or what's the next thing I could explore? And when you do that and you're amazed, or you're like, no, I don't like it, that's all part of the change. And I just encourage people to go on there. We talk about how AI can support the fundraising process. It's really around three things. It's about precision, and a form of AI can actually drive tremendous precision for your organization by taking lots of data and distilling it down in small amounts of data. And this, similar to how Amazon takes all of your information and kind of predicts, I tries to predict what you might buy next. It can support in creativity. And we'll talk more about generative AI and its ability to support creativity, and also personalization. And this is where I think small nonprofits have huge advantages right now, because you don't have a lot of bureaucracy. You have the ability to leverage some of these tools that are super affordable, if not free, to drive, precision, creativity, and personalization at scale. And the last part, while we have to be very mindful about the future and how we're using AI for good and make sure that we're using it responsibly, we also know that AI has taught us more about why people give than we've ever known in history. So this is a really exciting time to be a fundraiser, to be a nonprofit, because we now know more about the motivations of giving than we've ever known in the past, literally like ever in the past. And it's not just our hypothesis of what about makes a good donor or good prospect, that AI actually can show us the math behind the correlations between a donor and a prospect. So that's just to kind of level set AI for you. Hopefully that's helpful. And of course, and Gabby will have our contact information. I'm always happy to be, answer other questions offline as well. We can go to the next slide. It also, AI, we know, can be a little confusing, and this toolbox is not meant to add to your confusion, but it just goes to show that there are a lot of different ways to use AI. And it's not about this idea that you use all the tools for every type of solution, the same way that you don't use a saw to hammer a nail, and you don't use a hammer to cut a piece of wood. You use the right tool for the right challenge. And the same way that AI is a toolbox, and there's different tools in the toolbox, and some tools are aimed and meant to do specific things, and other tools are not. So on the bottom left, we see generative AI and large language models. That's what most people think of as AI today, but that's actually the newest form. It's a specific form of AI. It's called generative AI. So OpenAI and ChatGPT, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Google Gemini, and Microsoft Copilot, and Anthropic Claude. Those are all terms that represent different forms of generative AI. And I was sharing with this group earlier, Generative AI almost all looks the same. It's like bottled water. They all have different labels on the outside, but inside they're all water. And you might have a preference because I like Fiji water, or I like Aquafina, or whatever it might be, or I like one with a little flavor in it. They're all bottled water and they all operate the exact same way. So don't be nervous about, did I pick the right one? If you don't like that bottle of water, try a different bottle of water, because they all operate basically the same, and pick the one that works well for you. Generative AI is all about creating new things. It's about using the world's information to basically distill it down to predict what word might come next. It's about creating new things. It's really good at creating donor appeals. It's really good at understanding donor sentiment to be like, take the persona of a donor that I'm going to ask for money. Don't even have to tell them the donor's name, and I'd encourage you not to, but say, what are the types of questions you might ask me? So generative AI is really, it's generative, it's ongoing, adaptive. And then I'll just talk a little bit about deep learning and machine learning. Those are areas within AI that are all about creating less. So generative AI is about creating more and more content and more stuff and put it out in the world. Deep learning and machine learning is about taking all the data you have in your organization, whether it's your CRM, or if you're using a wealth screening provider like DonorSearch, and you're taking all that information and you're distilling it down. And I want to make sense of who are the people that are most likely to give, and when, and how much, and that type of thing. So you can if you pick up what I'm laying down, is this idea of if I could have direction on who is likely to do something, and I can use generative AI to actually activate those people, but writing a better appeal, or by creating something custom, an annual report for them, or a stewardship report for those individuals, all of a sudden you're cooking with gas. You're using two different tools to like create a new piece of furniture or something. And so it's just a really, really exciting time. And I think this is where, of course, for-profit entities saw this coming a long time ago, and they've done tremendous at engaging consumers in different ways. Nonprofit sector have access to these tools today, and they're extremely affordable and will definitely level up your organization. All the other tools in the toolbox, augmented reality and virtual reality and blockchain, they all have distinct purposes in the nonprofit sector, but they're a bit more obscure purposes. They're very specific. Like, I want to use virtual reality to immerse a donor into a situation, which is really promising in the future, but still fairly newish technology in the nonprofit space. We can go to the next slide. When we think about the return on investment on AI, it's not about raising more money. It's not about like offloading humans and just replacing humans with bots, although I think some people would prefer that to happen. It's about augmenting and about supporting your workforce to help you work smarter, not harder, to help give you what we call a dividend of time. And that dividend of time is if I can offload certain tasks, analyzing a report, or writing a donor communication, or writing an annual report, whatever it might be. And if I can save 20% of my time, what can I do with that dividend of time? What human activities could I do to enrich donor relationship? That's why I love the topic of this webinar, about how to really build and foster those major gift relationships. And we're talking about all the different types of technology today. So the 5 ROIs of AI, and I actually probably add a 6th now, which is just creativity. But the first 2 I talked about, precision and personalization. Those are 2 things that every nonprofit, can benefit from. But the 3 down below, about doing things more efficiently, so faster, doing them, with a higher degree of quality, so better, more accurate. And then last, to do them with higher satisfaction so that you're happier. Those 3 things, I think feel like they match so well with the nonprofit sector, like peanut butter and jelly. Like, I've never met a nonprofit ever in my 20-year career of fundraising that couldn't benefit from doing things faster, better, and being happier in the end. And if your organization can't benefit from those, you just probably hang up right now. If you're like, we are so happy because we do stuff really fast and we do it really accurate, then you probably don't need this webinar. But if you're an organization that could benefit from doing things faster, better, and happier, then this is a place for you. And no doubt, and actually the polls show this, there are several of you who are like, okay, but where and what and how? Like, all of this sounds interesting, and I feel like I'm falling behind and I'm not even sure where to go. Gabby put together a great list of just shortcuts for you. And if honestly, any of these tools, these are all bottled water for you. Any of these tools will blow your mind if you start to use them. There is a trick. You can't just use it one time and have it write a poem about your dog having a picnic on the moon or a haiku about your bowling team and then feel like, okay, my world has just changed. It will never be the same. You have to spend around 10 hours. About 10 hours is the part where your brain unlocks and says, this is not like the internet. This is not like a piece of software that's going to do the same thing the same way every single time. In fact, if you ask a specific question to all 5 of these tools, it will give you a slightly different answer, and its approach will be slightly different. And that's where you kind of pick and choose the bottled water that you like best. You're like, oh, well, I don't like how ChatGPT did this. I didn't like how Gemini did it. I'm going to use ChatGPT or Copilot or Perplexity because of my role. And so these are all great tools, and there's so many more. But these are some that I can guarantee you, if you spend 10 hours and you kind of experiment with 1 or 2 or 3 of these, you're going to find ways. And even if you start with, how can you help me? This is my job. I'm a prospect researcher. I'm a donor relations person. I'm a major gift fundraiser. How can you help me with my job? And see what it says, and then have a conversation with it to refine those. So that's, I would say, that the lowest bar to really start with. The next slide really just represents kind of the 2 basic elements of AI. And I know it can be overwhelming, and this will be kind of the end of our overview of AI kind of in general. This is the area that I think a lot of people just get hung up on. It's like AI is everything and nothing, and I don't really understand the left brain versus the right brain. And the way we think about this from this era, this idea of precision philanthropy, is that you need to have both the left brain and the right brain. You need to have the logical side to be like, okay, I need to understand which donor is likely to activate and when and how much and for what purpose, what would be the right appeal. And then I need, the creative side of the brain that is saying, and this would be the best approach based on that data. And so we live in a time right now, and I become super bullish on this and super excited about like what wakes me up in the morning, is that we have the ability to do both. We have predictive AI, which is machine learning and deep learning to make predictions. And then we have generative AI to take those predictions and activate them. And that's where like the predictive AI is the stuff that I do every day with DonorSearch. We're making predictions on who's likely to make a gift and when and how much and all those things. And then there's a plethora of tools in generative AI that can say, now I have those predictions, what am I going to do with them? So again, predictive AI, graphs, data points, it's very logical. It's about taking a lot of math and making you not have to do math, let it do the math for you to quantify essentially and measure the commonalities of donors and non-donors. And then generative AI is about taking that data or any type of data and creating something new. And that's really all you need to impress your friends at a dinner party, is be like, I know what precision philanthropy is. I know what predictive AI is. It's the logical side. And I know what generative AI is. It's a creative side. It's really the opportunity to put both of those things together that is going to make a massive, massive sea change. And I would argue a needed change, a needed sea change in the nonprofit sector, that we can't do things the same way and expect a different result. These tools are available today and they're at your disposal. So I really, encourage you to really lean in and start to leverage them. So how are people using them? You might ask, or you didn't ask, but we're going to tell you anyway. This came from a very recent McKinsey study. They surveyed I was like several thousand people on how they're using these tools, and specifically generative AI. So if you want a shortcut on, pick your bottled water and decide which one you want to try today, these are kind of the main domains that you can think about. So either creating content, that's the biggest area. So I think a lot of people have that feeling of like, I'm going to draft a donor communication, whether it's just a thank you, or it's an apology because we screwed something up, or it's an appeal, or I just, want to check on you. That blank sheet of paper is so, daunting for a lot of people. I know it is for me. And I'm a writer sort of, and I don't really consider myself a writer. Generative AI gets you over that blank page really easily, and it gives you something to respond to. It will I'd say, write me a letter to a donor that talks about, how much they mean to us and, and how we appreciate their partnership. I don't know where to start with that. And generative AI will be happy to give you a start, and you might hate it, but it gives you something to respond to. And you might love it and say, all I have to do is tweak a few words and, reshape a few things. But in any case, content creation and editing editing is very, very good. Proofing is very, very good with generative AI. But also use it for technical assistance. A lot of nonprofits don't have a full IT team, and it's like something breaks on your computer. Take a screenshot on your computer and be like, I'm getting this weird error. What does it mean? How do I fix it? Generative AI would be like, oh, here's where you need to go. Go to your settings, do this thing, and whatever. Personal, professional support. There's all types of areas that this can be used. It's like, help me get over, this thing I'm like really mad about, and what are some ways I can cope with it? How can I reduce my stress, and so on. Learning, education, hobbies and recreation. Have it come up with ideas on how to take your hobby to the next level. A lot of people use this to create, like, solopreneurs to create their businesses. And I think one of the most profound but under leveraged areas of generative AI is in research, analysis, and decision making. I will probably never look at another Excel file and spend, hours doing. I'll never do another pivot table. I'll tell you that, in my entire life, because I'll take a large Excel file, I'll load it into ChatGPT, and I'll say, tell me what I need to know about this. And then I'll start asking it questions. What's the correlation between this and this? And what would I need for future, study or analysis? This is an area that I think most nonprofits, you now have an analyst. If you have no analyst on your team, you have an analyst on your team. You have a really, really good analyst on your team that is willing to answer any questions you might have about a survey, a report, a donor survey, which used to be really nice to have, but didn't know how to leverage. This is a tool that can answer all those questions and give you the personas of donors and analysis of your donor sentiment and so on. So I would say, we'll end with this slide, or on this part. I would say the biggest limitation to using generative AI in major gift fundraising is your imagination. I'd always bring AI to the table first and become that natural first instinct, bring it to the table and have it prove you wrong. Have it tell you that it can't help you before you assume it can't. So always bring it to the table and assume that it can help you, and continue to work with it, because you have a tool now that is going to be able to really drive and foster that connection with donors in ways that you didn't before. We'll share some more examples a little bit later.
Nathan, there was one question that came up in the chat, and those platforms that you shared earlier, can they do both predictive and generative AI?
They can. So that's a really great question. The answer is no, not yet necessarily. They can do like sentiment analysis. So there is a fine line here, because if I put in, if I do a donor survey, and that donor survey, I survey 1,000 donors, and I say, here, and it's in Excel, and I say, here, give me the overall sentiment and even personas of these donors. So it's in a way, it's categorizing and predicting people and putting people into buckets. But that true predictive AI of taking like all my information, say 1,000 data points, and saying, who's the most likely to make a gift? It cannot do that, at least today. There will be a point in the next 2 to 3 years where generative AI will be kind of like the ubiquitous AI that will do those predictions and the activation all in one tool. But for now, in the next couple of years, use a tool like DonorSearch AI to do the predictions, and we have many different tiers there. And then you use generative AI, whichever tool you like, to essentially take those predictions and then activate them. A great question. Really, really insightful question.
Right. So pass this over to you guys, David and Chris.
And I think I'm starting the slide only to say, and this is like something that I'm just so passionate about. Data is no longer a luxury for your organization. If you are just starting your path of like, hey, we know we're going to be using AI in the future, or you're using it, but you don't have a very direct in a conscious strategy on how you want to leverage it in the future, no matter where you're at in the path, data is a critical element. It's not about, absolute accuracy. It's about having a data strategy and knowing that every person in your organization is now a data steward. So knowing that your organization in the future will make decisions based on your data, every person, whether you're a fundraiser and you're entering contact reports or not, and you've got updated names of grandchildren, or you've got other, things within your data, it's important that's in there, phone numbers, addresses, all those things. Or if you're a gift entry person, or if you're a prospect researcher, or if you're a donor relations person, every single person in your organization is now a data steward, because it means that if you're going to make decisions in the future, whether they're predictive or generative, make decisions based on that data, the quality of your decisions are dependent on that data. And so you can always supplement data and add more data to it. But AI, if you think about it, is like a feedback loop. You're never ready, and you're also never done. The feedback loop continues, and the better it will operate better and better as it gets to know your data better. And you can only do that if there's a solid commitment. So if I was not ready to use AI today, my first thing to do would be to kind of deputize every employee to say, every person here, data collection, that means, looking at creating more data through like donor surveys and things like that. It means that both data collection and data accuracy are things that you just really want to double down on as an organization. So make data a central part of your strategy, if not just for today. There's no doubt in the future that all the tools that you're going to be using within your nonprofit will require that data to be part of that feedback loop.
All right. Nathan, I could listen to you all day, but I'm going to speak a little bit here about how you can use technology and AI to help with your fundraising efforts, right? And Nathan said something to me the other day, just in this vein, that data doesn't help support your strategy; it is the strategy now with AI, which I think is super interesting. So data is important. It's going to help you do things like donor segmentation, which we're talking about here, right? And why is donor segmentation important? Because it allows you to have targeted communication, which is essential to fostering deeper connections between you and your donors. Like a super basic example, which surprisingly I still see from some of our clients, is that they just send out generic thank you letters to major donors, which is not what you should be doing. But that is that is something that's easily fixed, right? And as Nathan said, data is a strategy. So having a solution that allows you to capture the depth and breadth of your constituent affiliations, it will really help you fully understand your donors and who your prospects are. And like a few ideas, donor surveys and feedback, measuring your fundraising efforts, gaining insight into your donors, right? Sending surveys after an event to your volunteers. Nathan, you mentioned something in a conversation the other day about even taking survey feedback and feeding it into AI and the insights you can gain from that. Did you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of chat, which we have a slide that talk about responsible AI at the end, but we might as well talk about it now. Most people, either they're not using AI because they feel like it's not secure or private. We should say, if you are not paying for a product, you probably are the product. That's just an overall sentiment in anything technology related. It also means that if you're paying for the product, you have more control over your privacy. So even in ChatGPT, if you're paying $20 a month, you can actually turn off settings that actually retain and train other models. In the Microsoft Teams version, that enterprise version that they offer Copilot, they're entirely safe. So hospitals are using them. But if you don't know, do not put confidential information into a large language model. But you can anonymize data all you want. And so surveys and analysis. So I have surveys where 1,000 people fill out a survey. You don't need names and addresses. You just need responses of like, this many surveyed people said this and this many people did this. And to get an overall sentiment of what those results were, I actually was doing a survey analysis last night of 1,200 survey respondents of donors that had made a gift in the last 12 months. I did not have names. I didn't have any PII. And it gave me insanely insightful information on how I can direct my future research, how I can direct our future communications of where people are at. And so this makes doing surveys very practical, and because they're essentially free to do, like Google surveys and things with your donors, but now also accessible, because in the past it was so hard to actually analyze the surveys to get real, directional support from them.
That's great. I'm glad you addressed that. There's a lot of questions in here about sensitivity to data, so I'm glad you talked about that as well. Donor data analysis, as I mentioned, you need to be tracking all this information. Are you tracking all the information about you can about your constituents? Do you have an integrated solution to manage this data in one place? Because that's very helpful when feeding data into AI tools, right? For like predictive analytics, like DonorSearch provides. And you need clean, reliable data as well. I always say this every time I have a chance to, because I work with clients every day, and one of the biggest issues I see is clean, consistent data. You know, do you have a procedures manual? Make sure everyone's on the same page if you have multiple hands in your data when managing your information. And then donor stewardship and relationship building. Communicate with your donors. If you don't, retention's going to drop, right? I mean, just a real basic stat is 10% of recurring donors drop after the first month. So usually it's just because of lack of engagement, right? And then document those relationships that you have between donors and prospects and board members, et cetera. People rely too much on institutional memory to track that information. And the average tenure, as most of you know, of a development director is 18 months. So you need to document those relationships, right? All right, let's go to the next slide, Gabby.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, Chris, I
Oh,
think
David, yeah, please speak.
yeah, no, one of the things I just want to share is we're talking about AI today, and and because of AI and the power that it is really providing, it is the new fundraising currency, and you got to look at that. We hear about new fundraising currencies all the time from different platforms, but data is the new fundraising currency using AI. It's really going to help turn your data into truly predictive, powerful information. I mean, it's really going to help uncover hidden patterns in your donor behavior that you've never been able to see before. And it really will allow you to implement new strategies to do more with your donor profiles. I mean, there's a lot of things. And then doing that, we'll talk a lot about this today, but, it's, personalization on steroids. It's going beyond just your basic segmentation. It's really going to help create dynamic donor personas that are going to really help you in a real-time basis, using different types of interactions. So it's going to allow you to tailor these type of communications and tone and style to each donor. I mean, this is really what it's getting down to when we're talking about personalization. It's not one size fits all. And I think, even the insights into this type of donor information is going to allow forecasting, donor preferences, giving capacity. And Nathan, you said it. I'm not sure of it yet, but with complete accuracy, right? Is it really complete accuracy? I'm not sure about that at this point, but until we do more of it. One of the things that you said is you have to teach it, so you have to continue what you're doing, re-put it in. That was a really strong point that even I've learned recently from you. So thank you for that. It's really doing a lot of different types of analysis and touch points across everything in your donor database. It's it should even allow creating new dashboards that can provide real-time information that is going to give you actionable insight. So, and then doing that, it's really about that relationship building, right? Because we're never going to go away from personalization. I mean, no matter what this provides, you still have to be personalized on this. But even using chatbots, I mean, we've talked about that a little bit, 24/7 personalized donor engagement with chat boxes. And then just predicting analytics to identify the perfect moment for the donor outreach. I mean, we talk about this every day, in marketing of when do we send out an email marketing campaign, and it's a little bit on our analysis. This is really going to help, predict these things even further, and then just continue doing and using AI, like Nathan mentioned, which we call today A/B testing, to refine your fundraising approaches. So I think this whole notion of data segmentation and implementing AI into this is really going to help a lot.
All right, thanks, David. So not only is tracking as much as you can about your constituents important, but there are tools out there like DonorSearch that provide services such as prospect research, predictive analytics, that will supplement the data that you have about your donors and prospects and constituents with data outside of your database, right? They can give you information from all sorts of crazy databases, which Nathan can talk to you about, and help feed information, and hopefully you have a solution that's integrated with a service like that allows you to bring that data in, which is the most powerful thing, is that you can then analyze your data, not only that you have about your donors and prospects and constituents, but also with data that's coming from outside of your own database, right? And that's really going to help you in terms of understanding who your donors are and and not leaving money on the table when you go out and ask them for money. 75% here in the stat right here, 75% of giving in the USA came from individuals and bequests, and those are the healthiest organizations too. When the majority of your gifts are coming from individuals, that's where you need to be. And what it comes down to is household income is the most predictive, biggest predictor of charitable giving, right? Both in giving rate as well as the amount given annually. So if you can get that external information about your donors and constituents inside your database and be able to analyze them, decide how much you're going to be asking from them, decide how the outreach is going to be depending on how much you think they're capable of giving, that is huge, right? You don't want to send out a generic a form letter ask to a major donor or someone who's potentially can give you, $20,000, and that person who's been giving you $20 a year, you may not realize is also capable of giving you a lot more, and that's where DonorSearch services can be huge,
Yeah.
right?
I was going to add real quick too, Chris, because someone had mentioned, and they're like, what if I'm a smaller mid-sized organization and I don't have hundreds of data points or thousands of data points? And the reality is you don't have to, and very few organizations do, even large ones. But if you have, your gift transactions, you have basic information about maybe people who have attended events or have done other types of things. This is where like an organization like DonorSearch comes in, and that's how I was in the nonprofit space where I started working with DonorSearch to essentially what we call enrich. I take the limited data that I have and I enrich my data with outside data. To your point, so DonorSearch comes in. DonorSearch has 1,000 data points on every household in America. Therefore, now your organization has 1,000 data points on every constituent in your database. So you don't have to think about this being on your own. Data enrichment is a kind of a key element of really extracting the most out of artificial intelligence.
Okay. Creating compelling content, right? There are crazy things out there now that assist with creating content. And Nathan, you can speak to this much better than I can in terms of the tools out there that allow you to do this. People are using ChatGPT, they're using things to generate graphics. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot here for people to digest. Again, I would start with the approach that we call it bringing AI to the table. So I'm going to start with the notion that AI can help me with this thing. And if it's even to get you over the blank sheet of paper, but the reality is that these large language models like Chat, GPT, and Gemini and Claude, they're all the same in the sense of how they were trained. They've read every single book on human psychology. They've read every book on consumer behavior. They've read every case for support that's ever been loaded to the internet since the beginning of mankind. They know this space better than you think they do, and much better than you think they do, to the point that they outperform most people that have been doing this work for 20, 30 years. And even in myself included, where I took a course on philanthropic psychology, and ChatGPT outperformed me on every single test. 8 out of 8 tests actually
Wow.
outperformed me as a fundraiser for 20 years on philanthropic psychology.
Crazy.
But I think there is this caution here. So assume that it can help you. So targeted marketing campaigns and digital channels, I use it for pretty much everything, at least to get me over the blank page. I would say, reiterate again, don't put anything confidential in a GPT if you don't know that it's an enterprise license and it's secured for you, but anonymize it and do whatever you need to do to essentially extract the most out of it. But also ensure that you're keeping the human voice, the human touch in everything you do. The nonprofit sector operates in the currency of trust. We cannot give up that trust. We cannot use AI to just automate things and offload humans out of the equation. So that also goes to things like, don't just copy and paste. It sounds good enough. Don't copy and paste something that's even, a fundraising appeal or a LinkedIn post. I never, ever would copy and paste something. I always want to ensure that I'm using my critical thinking, muscle memory. I'm using my own creativity, and I'm adding to this, refining it, saving time for sure. But just ensure that you are, using AI, but doing what we call keeping humans in the loop in every aspect of AI, that there's always a human that's checking for accuracy, always a human that's editing to make sure that there's a personalized touch. It can save you 20, 30, 40, 50, up to 60% of time to do a specific task. But I say that that dividend of time is what you use to keep that human in the loop.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, give multiple ways to give. So do you facilitate your donors' ability to give how they want to give, right? I mean, we just had a client who we onboarded who was still relying on, just having a form you download to send in to give. And now they have multiple forms that allow them to renew their memberships online, make pledges online and pay their pledges online, make a single donation, make recurring gifts, make tribute donations, etc. There's so many ways you can facilitate the ease of giving through having a solution that's going to allow you to do that, right? And having clear calls to action, right? Making your solicitations, making your outreach to your constituents visually appealing, right? I mean, Nathan, our marketing team was just talking about using Adobe AI, right, to create graphics, and they're amazing looking, right? I think even one of your graphics in this was AI generated, is that right?
All of my graphics now are AI generated, and
Okay.
I usually attribute them. You don't have to, but I would say I've seen small nonprofits without having to hire a photographer or a videographer, like literally perform at a level that they never could have before. These tools are getting so good at actually understanding your organization, your mission when you provided that contextual information levels up your ability to communicate through different mediums, so audio and video and images. So again, assume it can help you and have it prove to you that I can't.
Okay.
And I think also, AI, whether you're using it or not, can really help, right from the visualization of a website, right? They're starting right at the website. You want to build and create and optimize your website. And AI can really help generate those types of layouts. It also can use content generation to draft the initial website content, like you said. I think there's a lot of different places that chat can use. But then, like you said, Nathan, you got to refine it. It's got to be your voice around that, right? It can't just be self-generated. You got to look at it as any collaboration that you're working with today and collaborate with it and make it a partner with you. I mean, these are the things that it can really help. And then just, really powering it to personalize different ways of suggesting donor methods, right, based upon user preferences. So you can really generate different ways of, today we see a lot of what we call single donation pages, but what about unlimited donation pages on your website? And, really tailoring these different types of pages that's going to truly resonate with the different types of donors that are coming to your website. So these are really important, items to really look at when people are just coming to your website. And then having a clear call to action, right? I mean, always testing, we always talk about A/B testing to truly optimize the donation buttons, the placements, the designs, so these are really things that can help, even improve your website. It can improve the donor experiences when they're coming. It, major gift donors that are looking at this, it just resonates with everybody. But it's truly goes back to that personalization, but you're giving a lot of different ways to give, because now you can personalize and truly understand your donors and the different asks. And these are the things that can really help leverage through AI.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of CRM, there was a question that did come up, so I wanted to ask it to the panel. Jamie asked, our CRM does not integrate very well with third parties, and we have about 7,500 active donors that have given in the last year. If we ran our whole database through something like ChatGPT to analyze trends, I would not be able to easily integrate the results and subsequent strategy back into our system in a meaningful way. Obviously, everyone's mileage will vary, but I see integrating and retaining the results into our database as the biggest obstacle, not so much obtaining the results. Any advice?
There might be a little, the answer is going to be yes, but so there's different ways to use this tool. So doing that to understand your donor trends and analysis for sure will provide you guidance and direction on like this is where our overall donors are going, and average gift size and the frequency that they give and seasonality of when they give. That allows you to kind of refine strategy. So that's like directional. It's what I'd consider analysis, like deep segmentation and analysis of like, this is where I can refine my fundraising strategy to match where our donors are at. that's very helpful, but it's not, the specificity is not there where the question is saying, but how does it help me with a specific individual? And that's where essentially you would need like a DonorSearch AI to essentially say, give me a score about a specific individual, but then taking that analysis, do more like take a person with their specific score, this person's raising their hand, activate them in springtime or activate them for a certain amount of money at a certain time. And so you kind of have to have both ways. I would say generative AI is really good at providing directional guidance and support and analysis, but it's not specific usually to a specific individual unless you're using it to say, and I know prospect researchers, instead of going to Google, will say, ChatGPT, give me everything you know about Mark Cuban and his philanthropic interests. And that's like super low hanging fruit, easy kind of thing to do. But it's very different than saying of 1,000 donors, tell me the people I should solicit today. That's where you still would need a separate tool to do that.
Got it. And then while on the topic, which AI helped analyze that donor data received from DonorSearch?
Yeah, well, in DonorSearch specifically has 3 different AI tools. We build custom machine learning models for very large organizations, and we have a series of machine learning models that are for mid-size and smaller organizations, and we have free models called Most Likely to Respond that exist within the DonorSearch platform. All of them are intended to say, however many donors you have, to provide you a specific score. The score goes from 0 to 100. The higher the score, the more confident the model is in the sense of someone is going to make a gift, either a first gift or a repeat gift. So reach out to DonorSearch for sure, or reach out to me and I'll help you connect to someone at DonorSearch to help guide you through which is the right tool for you and your size organization. And that's the easiest thing I could tell you to do, because that's what I do all day long.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to go through these. We're getting short on time. Peer-to-peer fundraising, in terms of, in that vein of giving donors multiple ways to give to your organization. On average, what we're seeing is 20% of donors will refer another donor through peer-to-peer, through social particularly. So, peer-to-peer solutions allow individuals to set up personal fundraising pages to raise money for your organization, right? And the beauty of it is it can amplify your fundraising efforts beyond your list of donors and prospects, right? Because they're assisting with acquiring new donors for you through their network of friends and family and whoever, and they're raising money on behalf of your organization, right? So the peer-to-peer can really allow your staff, your board members, your volunteers to ask for donations through this platform where they may otherwise not want to do it personally, right? Which is great. And there's lots of ways AI can help you generate content, graphics, et cetera, to really execute. I don't know if Nathan, you want to mention anything about that, but
No, I think because we're short on time and I want to make sure we get to more questions.
Let's do it. Let's go to the next slide. All right. David, do you want to mention a little bit about team fundraising?
Well, I love talking about team fundraising, and I know we talked a little bit about peer-to-peer fundraising, but it's great where you can truly use even AI on this and optimize your team fundraising. I've seen a shift from events, and where you think about team fundraising traditionally as just a team event, where now organizations are incorporating the team fundraising as the event itself, registering for the event, and then engaging others within the team framework. And then you really want to create dynamic and personalized event experiences. You can do this both virtually and live. You want to perform high performance teams. And even with AI, you can really start really analyzing skills and networks and combining the right skills and the right networks with the right teams. And you can really start implementing these things. You also want to have ambassadors for these. You want to generate personalized storytelling templates that can really help the teams really go faster, right? And they'll be happier. Helping donors craft compelling narratives that you would ordinarily say, you have to do this on your own. So you can use ChatGPT for this. You can truly identify and target, high potential contacts or major donors that would really want to help within the network. Team fundraising isn't just about the event itself. It's how you're engaging them and setting up realistic challenges, but yet achievable for both the team and for the individuals. You can, again, go back where you can hyper customize these messages and the campaigns that are going out either by the individuals or just by the nonprofit themselves. So you can really optimize what you're doing with the team and generating AI as a very complementary to doing this. And then just having a real personalized experience with everybody and creating, training materials, which, like Nathan mentioned, you can come up with the training materials a lot easier and a lot faster with fundraising tips for each participant, because maybe each participant in their profiles are a little bit differently. So you can really get into this where it's no longer one size fits all. So I think team fundraising, incorporating AI is just an amazing tool that will really help embrace and engage, create more awareness for you, increase your donor acquisition, increase donor engagement, and raise more money for the organization.
Oh, Nathan, you're on.
Yep, I know. Sorry, I was answering a question about where to find ChatGPT, and I assume this deck will be available, but it just works on any browser, anywhere in the world. Well, not anywhere in the world. There's some countries that don't allow it, but anywhere here. So this is a quick public service announcement on responsible AI. And every big company will say that they are responsible. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, no one's going to say they're not. But you can't defer your responsibility to them. It's the same way that you can't buy a Volvo and think I can drive it in a reckless manner and still be safe. That responsible AI is everyone's responsibility. So when you use a tool, understand your privacy settings. If you're not sure of your privacy settings, don't put confidential information in. That's just that's good business and a lot of common sense. Our sector has a lot to gain from AI, but we also could do a lot of damage if we don't take that personal responsibility. The last are just 5 real quick tips on extracting the most out of generative AI. Verify then trust instead of trust then verify. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but trust is the center of everything we do. Verify then trust. Understand your privacy settings. Speak to AI like a human, but tell it what kind of human you want it to be. If you want it to be a snarky donor that's really cantankerous and going to ask you a lot of questions about why they should give you a gift, it will do that very happily. If you want it to be a really kind person and teach you how to be more empathetic, it will help you with that. Always invite AI to the table. I've shared that a couple of times already. And for sure, assume, because it will be true, that today is the worst AI you will ever use. Because tomorrow and the next day and the next day, there'll be new AIs that have been trained by other AIs, and that they get better, not incrementally, they get better exponentially. And so if you don't like it today, just wait till tomorrow, but continue to flex that curiosity muscle and continue to learn. I did put in 2 links, by the way, my LinkedIn profile, but also our podcast, which we do a weekly podcast on AI for fundraising, specific on this. So you don't have to read a lot. You can just go there for 30 minutes a week and find out what's going on in the world of AI today. And I don't need to cover this much, only the sense that I wrote a book that talks about this idea that our sector needs support. We have to stop doing things the same way and expecting a different result, and that AI is the only scalable solution to help reduce or reverse those negative the declines in charitable giving. So if we use it right, we have a real opportunity in our sector to lead the world in really reducing inequity at scale using AI.
All right. Thank you, guys. And we do want to ask you, Chris had mentioned one of the most important things is to have a CRM that integrates with these wealth screening platforms. Arreva is an awesome platform. We do all this. We work very closely with DonorSearch, all those donation pages. You saw peer-to-peer fundraising. It's all integrated in one platform. If you would like to learn more about Arreva, go ahead and just say yes, and we'll make sure someone from our team gets in touch with you. And then we're going to go on to some questions after this. Okay, and then if you would like to learn more about DonorSearch, we'll go ahead and put a poll up and make sure someone from DonorSearch's team gets in touch with you as well too.
And while people are doing that, great chat. These are super insightful questions. I know we couldn't touch on most of this today because it was just a lot of fast and furious. But we'd love to stay in contact with you. Any of us on this call, definitely happy to follow up with you and provide direction, support, whatever that can help you in your AI journey.
right. David, do you want to speak a little bit about
Yeah,
challenges?
I think we talked a lot about AI today, and it's really great. And it's, at the end of the day, it's really about donor acquisition, donor retention, donor acknowledgement, how we're doing things better, right? The decline that's happening in the industry. We heard somebody say, I don't have a system that is completely integrated. I've got different things that are going on. And I think these are some of the challenges. There's a lot of great software out there, but not all of them communicate with one another, right? We've heard it lacks integration. And when you're really looking at all of these things, what do you have to do as a nonprofit? You're moving data from an event system or a campaign system or a grant system or a text-based system. And when you're doing that, you're really not allowing, because you don't have integration, and even with a turnover in the industry, there's a lack of training. But what is that really causing? It's really causing a limited communications or inconsistent donor engagement with your donors and how you're engaging. And people are really looking to do things better. So I think it's a combination of technology. I think it's a combination of AI. And really what we have provided, I'll go to the next slide to do it quickly, is really being able to have a unified database with all of these applications as one solution is really going to provide a lot of efficiencies, as we talked about. It's going to make it easier for your staff and your organization to respond immediately, because you should be getting notifications, not just sending out thank you acknowledgement receipts to the donors, but immediately getting a notification of what happened, whether somebody gave a reoccurring donation or registered for an event. And you can create better best practices as opposed to just moving data around. So these are just some of the things that the movement is out there. These are some of the things that Arreva does provide today. We've really offloaded these challenges. And Gabby, if you could move it to the next slide, because I'm really trying to finish this fast. Just a little bit about Arreva. We've been around for 30 years. We have over 6,000 clients. We're really proud to say that. 95% retention rate. Our clients have done so many wonderful things in fundraising. We've been vetted and approved by many national offices. And again, we have many applications, but the point of many applications is that, you don't have to buy them all. They're all within one unified database. It makes it easier for any organization that's out there, whether it's small, medium, or large. And we've really accomplished that with so many out there. And we're very proud of what we've done as a company to really help doing socially good and helping nonprofits really succeed in so many different ways. It's not just about technology, but it really is about how organizations are being supported. So again, I'll just say thank you for listening today. And, you guys are all doing wonderful things. Gabby, I'll pass it over back to you.
Sure. We have a ton of questions in the chat box. So I guess if you guys are available, we'll stay on, and whoever can stay on for these questions, more than happy to. So I guess let's go ahead and start. If I really wanted to dig into learning AI on a deeper level, are there any courses or certifications you would recommend?
Yeah. Well, one is I'm obviously biased in this because I record it, the fundraising.ai podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, just literally fundraising AI, pretty easy. But I think one of we're actually going to be launching a certification program for responsible and beneficial AI. But the person I follow outside of the nonprofit sector, her name is Allie K. Miller, Allie K. Miller. She has a LinkedIn learning certificate where you get a certificate. It's 48 minutes. I've taken it. It's fantastic at really just kind of starting your journey. So Allie K. Miller on LinkedIn would be where I'd go.
That's great. Another question, can you upload samples of an executive director's letters and then enter a new letter and ask how would an executive director write this?
Yes, 100%. And when you want an AI to get to know your voice, and I was talking to someone about this last week, their president, executive director writes a lot of speeches. Take all those speeches, anything that you've done in the past, load them into Claude or ChatGPT and say, write something new based in this voice. But absolutely, I think the thing the way to really think about this with generative AI is as a conversation. It's not one-sided, it's two-sided. So if it helps to visualize literally a person sitting in a chair in your office next to you, like you're having a conversation, but like, hey, I've got this idea, like, would this help me with this? And then it's like, well, yes, I can help you with this, but I need this context. And you're like, okay, I literally talk to my AI like a person. And I know that probably anthropomorphizes it and makes it scary, But I say please and I say thank you because it helps unlock the portion of my brain where I stop looking at it like a screen that I only get information back. When I talk to it like a human, it actually allows me to extract more information because it unlocks a part of my brain of like, I'm on a journey with you, and will this help? And what do you need to, what examples can I provide to you to help me even more? What context can I provide you? And just have that as an ongoing conversation. And yeah, I think it will be amazing.
That's great. Another question, can you give us great talking points on AI for mid-level versus major gifts, which is very personal?
Yeah, I mean, mid-level, again, it's about understanding your donor sentiment. So like doing surveys, super, super powerful to understand donor sentiment and categories of types of donors, whether they're based on age or geography, and basically tailor messaging that way because even their AI fluency is different, based on like those different demographic and geographic things. But one of the best use cases I see a lot of people doing now with generative AI for major gifts is saying, take the persona of a donor that is given to us for 20 years. So not any personal information, but like given us for 20 years and really only looks at things from an ROI perspective and always asks tough questions about this. Here's a thing that I'd like to ask money for. Like, what are the questions this person might ask me? And so essentially use your AI, give it a persona and ask it to role play with you for major gifts. And this like will level up. There's actually a tool that's being created right now that uses a bot to like portray a donor. So I can role play with this bot instead. And you can do this now just on your computer and just by a text conversation. In the future, you'll be able to do it with a bot that looks like a human that's role playing with you. We've seen this in interviews, like preparing for interviews. There's bots that actually help you prepare for an interview. Be like, okay, like, how would you answer this question? And how would you answer that question? So for major gifts, like the sky's the limit. Ask it how it can help you in your major gift fundraising effort.
Awesome, Nathan. Another question came in. If I want to hire someone on my development team with AI knowledge, and what am I looking for them to be experienced in?
I'm sorry, can you read it one more time?
Yes, if you're hiring someone for your development team with AI knowledge, what should they be experienced in?
I being a curious human, I think, not being afraid of change. It would a year ago we would have said, oh, are they a prompt engineer? Do they know how to write prompts? The reality is like prompts are like, you don't even need to do that now. I think the number one element of someone succeeding in a dynamic world like this is their level of curiosity and trying new things. You don't need to be a data scientist. The same way I don't need to know how to build a microwave. I just need to know how to use it so that my food is hot, and not burnt or not cold. And so I think a human that is curious and will push the limits and want to try new things, I would hire now more for curiosity than probably anything at this point.
It's interesting. There was another question that had come in earlier that we kind of touched on, but maybe David and Chris, you could provide insight on this. It was about the size of a database, and we talked about being able to analyze data and how powerful data is for AI. But do you have any suggestions for maybe like smaller organizations that are looking to, acquire new donors? I know donor acquisition is a challenge faced by many nonprofits today.
David, I'll let you speak, but we've done quite a few webinars in the past, right, Gabby, on donor acquisition. So you could definitely go through some of our prior webinars, which are, Gabby, correct me if I'm wrong, recorded and on our website, right? We can give access to them. But that's a whole conversation itself, donor acquisition. We did mention a few things today that help with donor acquisition. Memorial, honor gifts, having the ability to give them online. Those are a great way. Finding next of kin through that to solicit them. P2P events are another way. So there's many. I probably don't want to get into that discussion right now, but we can talk about that individually with you if you want to reach out to us for sure.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. Yes, everyone is going to get a copy of the presentation and of the webinar deck, so don't worry about that. And for previous webinars, you can go onto arreva.com if we didn't mention them. We have a whole webinar tab.
And for the question from Adam about AI prompts and live bunts, I would ask it and say, you know, I actually probably, I'm almost sure it probably will know what a live bunt is, but if not, tell it what a live bunt is. And then say, you can, so this is why prompt engineer is not a thing, because you can ask it to write a prompt for you. In fact, if I ask for an image on something, I'll say, what prompt did you use, you know, to draft this image? Because it will actually improve what I'm trying to provide. So I would say, what prompt will I use to achieve this outcome that I'm trying to achieve with my live buttons? And it will draft a prompt for you. And it will probably do a much better job than you could have done on your own. Well, probably means 100% sure it will do a better job than you could have done on your own.
There's another question that came into the chat. I've only used ChatGPT for writing, but what is a recommended low cost or free generative AI app for our visual communications, such as analyzing our current website and suggesting redesigns to maximize our outreach and appeal? And are there how-to guides for working with that app?
Well, free would be ChatGPT because it can analyze a website and you could have it analyze it for specific things like readability, accessibility, you know, content, context. So I would definitely do that. ChatGPT also writes code. It writes HTML, it writes Python, it writes pretty much everything, every code extremely well. So it can actually write you code for an optimized website as well. Of course, tools like Canva are fully AI immersed. Canva is a really, really powerful tool for that type of content generation as well. So it's not free, but I would definitely check out Canva as kind of a preferred choice there as well.
Yeah. And Chris and David, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about, because we do a lot with websites too, on like custom donor-centric website design and, you know, some of the things that you might want to make sure your website has on it, you know, increase engagement.
Well, yeah, Gabby, we love doing that. I mean, yes, you can certainly use AI, but if you are looking for a new custom website that is not your traditional website, but a true donor-centric website, we have an amazing process within the company, and we do build new custom websites. I will share with the audience because I don't want to, you know, mislead it, but we only build websites for our clients because we have such a great demand of new clients and that really want these very customized donor-centric websites, and we love doing it. We really built this around being socially good. From a fee perspective, it's a one-time fee. We host for free. We give you the tool. You can actually manage it once it goes live to do anything that you want. Literally, I always exaggerate the point, but you can literally move your footer to your header. You can add new videos and contents, and it's really a wonderful thing that we've done for the nonprofit industry.
Nathan, I'll do a couple more questions. I know we're running 10 minutes over. What is the best way to research safety protocols and data settings for ChatGPT 4?
Well, one is you can ask it. So it's like my answer to everything, right? If you're not sure, ask it. But also there's lots of YouTube videos on this, and knowing that it changes consistently. So like GPT-4, there's even a new model 4.0, and now 5 will come out soon. And as often as the models change, the privacy settings change too. So it's not like a one-time thing. You just have to like continue to be on this. But I will say, unlike Facebook, privacy settings in ChatGPT are very self-explanatory and easy. If you're paying for the product, so the $20 a month version, you literally click on the little sprocket, you look at settings, and it will say, do you want to turn off this thing that, you know, my data will retrain others? There's also a setting in the paid version where you can build a one-time query. So it's not, the query is not retained, the data is not retained, nothing's retained, it just disappears after. It's not great if you want a history of it later because it won't save it for you, but it's great if you do have something that's more on the confidential side there. So they're actually not very complicated. I know a lot of people are like with Google and with Facebook really hard to like turn off your privacy settings. Like you need like a PhD to figure out how to do it. It's not that way with things like Claude and ChatGPT at all.
Right. And when AI generates images, do you or your organization own them?
Yes. Yeah. You own them essentially because those images are not plagiarized. It just like content is not plagiarized. It's actually created something new that's never existed before. So at this point, whatever you've created is your domain. There might be other tools. I think Adobe might be the same way as well, but it might not. I'd want to understand that. But there's no royalty structure, at least now. I will say that organizations probably will try to find out how to do that. In the future, if you use, there'll be actors that will license their likeness to AI, and then in that case, you might have to pay a royalty. But right now, it's newly generated content that you essentially own.
Great. And then I'll ask one final question. For those of us that are all, small nonprofits and don't have someone to own this process, do you offer project-based consulting services to set up a process we can use?
I do not, but I know a lot of people who do. So let me know that do basic training, that do. I would definitely work with larger organizations that are looking for an overarching AI readiness strategy. But I know several people that have been longtime fundraisers that do quite a bit of consultation on level setting with your team. So definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll point you in the right direction. I probably within a few minutes, I can assess who the right person would be for your team on that and whatever might make sense. And Arreva might have other options on that side too, if it's beyond, definitely beyond the AI readiness side.
Hey, that's great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. These were great questions, great insights from our panel. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, David. You're going to be receiving a recorded copy of the session and of the PowerPoint presentation. So you'll have that soon in your inbox. But thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next webinar. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great to be here.